Hey, thank you so much for checking out this episode. Today, I speak with Jeremy Sanders from Crew First Culture. He is a captain out at a fire department in Oklahoma. So we did a Zoom call, a little bit different from me, but I still really enjoyed it. I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode as well. If you do, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you want to see more of my content. Also, be sure go follow Jeremy on Instagram. He's at Crew First Culture, and I'll tag that down in the description. And also follow my Instagram. If you guys enjoy this, please let me know down at the bottom. Who has been the person that you've talked to that you've looked up to the most, that you actually got to have either be on their episode or their podcast, or they were on yours?
Uh, and there's been several. I love Frank Viscuso. Everything he has put out, everything that I see from him or hear from him is awesome. And I'm very blessed to have him on a while back. And that was one of those nervous moments because I don't do a lot of preparation for episodes, just to be honest, because like we've talked about, I like the conversation just go where it goes. But in those type situations, it's like I better be somewhat prepared. I better have something to fall back on in case I get locked up or whatever. So him, uh, Chief Scott Thompson is another just an awesome dude that I love everything he has to say. Got to talk to him. It was awesome. A couple people that I didn't really know how much I would love them until I talked to them were Andy Starnes and Rick George. Those were people that I didn't know a lot about going into it, but those two conversations were some of the biggest impactful conversations that I've had on my life, just through having them on as a guest. So definitely I would put those guys at the very top of that for sure.
That is so cool, man. It's, I'm happy that I get to have you on. So I'm pumped about this. Real quick, I'm going to click on a button. All right. Oh, yeah, that's you. And then gallery, and then immersive. Oh, I don't need that right now. Cancel. Okay. Sorry. I was clicking around to see because I wanted, while you were talking, I was wanting to check out, see what camera angles I wanted. So, well, I'm excited to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, sir. It really does mean a lot to me and my little tiny show that I do, that you're talking with me, chatting, and I really do appreciate that. So, a quick question that I have for you: why the name Crew First Culture?
So back in 2019, really the end of 2019, I kind of got to a point where I was very, and this is going to be a long answer. If you want a short answer, I give you a short answer. But
Give me the long. You got plenty of time.
I I was very frustrated with where I was and with some other things going on. I had kind of lived through an awakening, a rebirth almost, if you want to call it, in my career. And I was fired up and I was wanting to make a difference in my department. And I wasn't given much of an opportunity. And so that started building a lot of frustration for me. And so luckily I saw that and I had the mentality to kind of do something with it instead of letting it burn me up and kind of causing me to make some stupid choices. So I kind of started some, or I was in the, I thought about, okay, well, I can just start some social media stuff and put some things out that are in my head that way so that I could get it out of me and it's not just boiling in. So me, I'm just the kind of person that I like having impactful words attached to things. If I'm going to be doing something or a class or anything like that, I want there to be something that I feel strongly about as far as the name or something. So I just started thinking about things and just kind of thinking about how I like to lead and what I feel is important to me as a leader. And I mean, really, one of my biggest things as a leader is I want to take care of my crew. I feel like if I take care of my people, I have no doubt in my mind that they are going to do everything they possibly can to accomplish whatever goal or whatever task is put in front of them because they're going to do that for me because the other 95% of the time, they know I'm going to take care of them. They know I have their back. They know that I truly care about them. And so thinking that, I was like, okay, well, I put my crew first. And, in that time frame, I started learning about the word culture, which now sounds goofy saying it because culture is everywhere. You don't get on social media without seeing something about culture. But back then I didn't really know the association that culture had on the working environment. I never learned that. And so I started really enjoying and really kind of searching out that knowledge of the culture of working environments and things like that. And so it just kind of it sounded good, crew first culture, because that's what's truly important to me. That's the environment and the culture I want to create myself. And so it was something that I felt like I could go under. I don't want to put something out there that isn't me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fly a flag that has nothing to do with what I'm passionate about or what I have experience in or anything like that. So it was something I felt pretty confident and pretty good about being able to represent. That's kind of where it came from.
When you came up with that name or made that decision of what type of officer you wanted to be, what daily changes did you make, or that do you remember?
So the rebirth I'm talking about, and just to kind of give you a little bit of that story, and I've said it a few times. If you've heard it, I'm sorry, but so I was an officer at that point, or a captain, a station officer for right around a year, and I felt like I was a pretty good station officer. I had already adopted that crew first, taking care of my people mentality. That's how I wanted to go about every day, but that's about it. I wasn't seeking out any additional training. I wasn't trying to learn. I wasn't trying to really do anything. My goal was to have fun at work. We're going to have a good day. We're going to get along. We're going to be a crew that enjoys being together. Was I just 100% complacent? No. I mean, when we trained, I wanted to make sure that we were doing it with a sense of urgency, and we were doing it with a mindset that we were taking this serious, and I trusted the people I was with to take care of things on scenes, and I didn't have any doubt in my mind that we could take care of real situations. But at the same time, I just didn't know how complacent I was. Yeah, I think for the most part, people enjoyed working for me, but I wasn't doing anything to make anybody better. I wasn't doing anything to have a positive impact on anybody's life. And so, luckily, that around that time, end of 2019, we got word that my crew was going to get a new recruit on our crew. And for some reason, man, it just clicked. It flipped some switch inside me to realize, gosh, I'm failing right now. I am not in a position to be in charge of somebody's future career. Yeah, I'm sure he'll come and enjoy it and he'll be taken care of. But the person I was back then as a leader, I wasn't going to feed him anything. I wasn't going to put him on the right path for the next 25 years of his career. That's just, I wasn't doing that. And so, and I like to associate it with weight. It was truly a weight that started sitting on me, and that's the weight of leadership is what I want to call it, because I I figured out at that point there's a lot more to this job than just having a crew that enjoys being together. There's a lot more to this job than creating a culture that people like to come to work to be at. I am now responsible for the safety, the health, the future of these people. If I get a new person and I totally ignore the fact that they need to be training to cement the things that they've learned and really put them on a path to success in the future, if I ignore that, I'm failing critically in the role that I am here to do. So that was kind of that eye-opening moment for me. And yeah, some things definitely had to change. You know, I'm blessed, blessed, blessed beyond imagine to have an amazing person with me on my crew this whole time that I've been at the station. My driver, that he was able to really make me realize how much impact we can have on other people's lives. He made me realize how important it is to learn, just to pursue growth and learning every day. And that was kind of the big thing, is just adopting that mindset that we need to try to get better at something every day. We need to try to grow in some way every single day, you know, and that has thankfully kind of bled into personal life too. You know, I'm not just here to become a better officer. I want to become a better person. I want to become better at home, better dad, a better husband. And so, you know, it's a huge, huge picture, right? Tons and tons of pieces. But that was really kind of what the groundwork was laid right there, is that daily growth mindset of reaching and pursuing, just getting a little bit better every day. So that's, I would say that's kind of the biggest thing in that process for me.
I thought that's it. Excuse me. I thought that was pretty interesting that you talked about your driver was one of the ones that was pretty influential to you.
Yeah,
And that just goes to show a lot of guys that just because you're not an officer doesn't mean you
absolutely.
can't make a difference, that you can't make a
Yeah,
change. Anybody
yeah.
can make a
I
difference.
will say that by far he is one of the biggest influences, one of the biggest mentors for me, a great friend. And yeah, he is at a rank that's below me. You cannot handcuff yourself to people that are your rank or at your level or even at your same career, you know, whatever. You know, the people that think that they have to find mentors that are either at their level or above, or that are, you know, firefighters, and you're probably missing a lot of opportunity, because there are so many great people out there, and a lot of them aren't at, you know, your rank or whatever. So take advantage of those situations, because there's some great people out there that you will totally overlook if you don't really kind of let yourself just absorb anything that's around.
For me, that's kind of a tough situation because I do want to be better. Now, I might be speaking just for myself, but I also want to speak for really anybody else that kind of feels the same way. And also, if I start to look down, if you are watching this, it's because I'm taking notes. So don't think I'm being disrespectful. I think I'm being disrespectful.
Checking your stock prices and your
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Texting the wife. Yeah. No. So the issue that I don't want to come up with is I don't want people to think that I'm a know-it-all. I don't want people to think that I am somebody who thinks that's beneath me and then I don't need to stand up and say anything. That's something that I try to emulate as much as I can, that it's like, hey, I don't know everything, but I do know this. Or always being the first one to step up and say something can rub a lot of people wrong. So I try to sit there and think about, how can I bring this up in a way that I can still keep everybody open-minded and intrigued in the conversation or in the
Yeah,
discussion or training that we're in? Because there's been times where I've heard other guys try to step up and say something and then it just kills the mood. And the
yeah,
guys, I feel like they're being stepped on, which that comes down to a personnel communication or an interpersonal communication with that person, with that recipient of that statement or whatever it is you're making to them.
yeah,
But trying to bring that across to other people and trying to step up and try to better yourself can sometimes, trying to do it intentionally can possibly rub on people the wrong way.
yeah,
Which a guy that I used to work with, I'll use him as an example. He's a great guy. He's a smaller dude, but he's a lot of people don't like him because of just how far he goes out there to try to do his best. He tries to he tries to step up and do what's the right thing. He's a very, very good EMT, but a lot of guys are just take him as what they think or perceive him as, and they just don't sit and listen. So to a lot of those types of people, it's a lot harder to want to listen to somebody that you don't think has enough experience or the time on the job,
Yeah.
because you think you know more than them. And that comes a lot with rank. I believe that as well.
Yeah.
What I think. But I've learned so much from the guys that were the brand new guys that were coming on,
Oh yeah.
not by letting them, hey, you're going to teach me how to do this and this and this. It's like, how do you think this works? Well, hey, in Fire 1 and 2 that we had just last year, this is what they taught. Granted, they're probably not doing a lot of great work in Fire 1 and 2's classes, but or a lot of the detailed stuff, but they do pretty good. But it's always trying to sit there and listen, even to the new guys, because they might have some piece of information that you might never have known, or they come from a different department, things that you had no idea how it worked, or different ways of hose loads. And that's how I've learned how to do different deployments of hose loads and different ways of especially hooking up to a hydrant. You don't always have to use 5-inch, not every single time. Our department's pretty big on using 5-inch only. Well, switching it over to 2.5, depending on how big the fire is, it's a lot lighter weight. It's quicker that I can get that hooked up. It still works just good. But sitting there listening to those guys is pretty important too. And also picking out the BS. That's also something that's pretty important.
Yeah. Now I think a lot of that is just, well, maybe two different things. A lot of it is just how you approach your how you're talking, or how you're transferring this information. I'm trying to think of how to say it here, and by that I mean humility. If you are somebody that has a lot of humility and has knowledge, you're going to find a way to, hey, that looks great. You ever tried it this way? And just try. I'm not saying what you just did sucks. This way is going to be better. Let me show you how. No, I'm giving you, I'm giving you a little bit of props. Yeah, it looks good, but and then just asking you, have you tried it this way? I'm not pushing anything on you, but it's just a way to kind of push, get things done in a different way. And a lot of that, the second part of that is what I was saying is, man, the respect that you build in your career, the kind of the reputation that you have in your career, it's important. I mean, as much as you do or don't like that statement, it is. I've seen a lot of times people that just coast and slug their way through, being a firefighter, being a driver, and once it's time to be an officer, oh, they're all about, this or that, and they're outspoken and they're wanting to instruct people, and it's like, who are you? You're the same person that for the last 12 years has griped every day we've trained, or has taken vacation every day we've trained. Don't I got nothing for a person like that. And that's, shoot, I mean, who's to blame somebody for thinking that way? But if you're somebody that has just, plugged along, you've been involved, and you've worked hard through your entire career, like this person you're talking about, yeah, he might be getting some crap right now for what he's doing, but hopefully eventually people are going to see that that's the kind of person I want to be around. And if they don't feel that way, then it's not the kind of person I want to be around. If you don't want to be around somebody that enjoys learning, enjoys, camaraderie, enjoys just trying to create an environment that, this is a team, then you're not going to like me. That's just it. But that's fine, because I don't want that kind of person with me anyway. And so, oh, yeah, you can change if you kind of have some down years, or you start your career off on the wrong foot. I'm not saying you can't change that, but it's going to be a long road. You have got to do a lot for a long time to repair that reputation. And so, it's really important for newer people to understand that, and understand that the actions you're taking right now, you're going to not only be judged by them right now, right or wrong, you're going to be judged by them for decades from now. And like I said, right or wrong, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's the way, unfortunately, the fire service works. And if you aren't putting in the effort, don't expect people to respect you and to trust you in the future, because you have not laid the groundwork to be a respectful and a trustworthy person. If that's what you truly want, then it's going to take some work. If you think that having a gold badge is going to solve that problem, you're absolutely wrong. You are completely wrong. Nobody is going to do, you might have some yes men or company guys that follow you no matter what, because you are the rank you are, but it's not going to work very long, because those people, they're just not the kind of people that you want to follow you. You want people that are go-getters. You want people that need some freedom, that are trusted to do their job. And so I think I'm all over the place right there with that with that answer, but that's kind of what you're talking about. That kind of jumps out to me, is that building that reputation and being humble about it, even though I want to transplant the knowledge and experience I have. It doesn't matter how high of those levels I have. If I can't do it in the right way, I might as well just be, you know, wasting it. I'm just wasting everybody's time. If you're not doing it in a humble way, in a way that people can absorb and hold on to, then it's not going to go well.
There's the you brought up new guys. You brought up them coming in, building up that reputation. What would you consider to be some of the qualities to build a good reputation for other firemen?
Great work ethic, uh, being open-minded, and these things. It's not just a new. This isn't recruit stuff. This is starting at recruit stuff and continuing. I think I brought it up already, but it's the number one thing that I now am going to tell every new person, or every person that asks what's the most important thing to tell new people, is having that mindset to pursue daily growth. Don't lose that. When you are brand new, you have that drive, you have that curiosity. You want to soak up everything you can. But over time, for most of us, that just kind of goes away, and you lose a lot of that, and you don't seek out knowledge anymore. You don't seek out training anymore. You start being entitled to where you think, I've done that hose pull plenty in the past. I know how to do it. Or I've carried bundles that way. Whatever it is, I don't need to do it anymore. And man, that starts that ball of complacency, and you get jaded firefighters that are, they have bad attitudes and all that. And it all starts because we start losing that drive to learn, and we start losing that curiosity, and that love for the job that we all had. And, you think back to when, even before you had the job, what would you do for that job? Just think of the mindset you had, and what you were thinking of. Man, I would do anything to have a professional firefighter job, to work on a department, or if you're already there and there's a certain department that you want to work for, I would do anything to work for so and so FD. And then you get on there, and as the years go by, it's like, this place sucks, and the coffee they get here is freaking awful, and it's like we're griping about the stupidest crap while we're working at the dream job that we would have died to work for a few years earlier. And it's sad, and it is not something that I'm above. I have been there myself, man. I've had the ups and downs. I've been the checked out firefighter, and I understand that. I understand how easy it is to fall into that situation, but just trying to hold on to that as long as you can. And when you lose it, hopefully you can see that, and start to kind of make corrections to gain it back. And I think that's one of the biggest things, the work ethic, like I said, have an open mind. Yeah, you need to listen. I'll, absolutely, you need to listen, but don't be afraid to speak up. You know, there are times when you're going to have to speak up, and hopefully you're in a safe environment at whatever crew you're on, that you have that opportunity. As long as you're not a know-it-all and yapping anytime somebody gives you the opportunity to yap. I'm saying if it's something important or you have something to share, don't be afraid to share it. When we get new people, I tell them right out of I mean, from day one, you're coming here to teach us. We are going to learn something from you. Yeah, we're hopefully going to do the same for you, but you're going to have to learn how to begin instructing other people by doing it to us. And that's kind of a groundwork thing that I have tried to start over, the last year or so. Is I don't want a crew of people that are good listeners when I want to teach them something. I want a crew full of instructors that are able and willing to teach whatever they know to anybody that's around. And that's kind of something we've tried to instill. But those are some of the biggest things for recruits.
When you brought up the lane coffee and you complaining about the most asinine things, that really put a memory back into my head from when I was in Cancun, and there was a fire station right next to the hotel down the road from the hotel we were staying in. So I told my wife, and I was like, I want to go over to that firehouse to go check it out. So we were about to go. We were actually getting back from dinner. We were walking. So I'm like, I'm gonna go see. Those guys are inside. I'll go talk to them. So obviously, you have to climb over the barricades. You go knock on the window. Somebody's walking out, and I'm like, hey, I'd love a tour. They didn't speak English. Kind of surprising. So I pull out my translator and I start speaking Spanish a little bit, trashy to them because I don't know Spanish. And then they got the idea that I wanted a tour. So I started doing a tour around the firehouse. And I was immediately blessed to think about back at my firehouse, the brand new firehouse that we got.
Yeah.
Like it looked like they started the demo of that firehouse out in Cancun. Like, all right, guys, we're tearing this place down, start knocking everything down. They started knocking everything down. And then about 2 hours into it, they're like, hold on a second. We got to keep this firehouse. We just lost the funding for everything else. And then they just kept it the same way it was.
Yeah.
The kitchen, it looked like someone took a sledgehammer and just broke everything and brought it in and just broke everything up, left tile on the ground. There's concrete blocks everywhere. Their bedding was like, it was disgusting. Their training props, they made their own training props out of just bent steel and then put fire gear over it. It was just their fire apparatus. They had hardly any tools in any of the compartments. They had I believe it was 150-foot bundle of hose that was just kind of lazily tossed in the middle of the crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And I said, so do you guys respond to these high-rise buildings? And then I typed it back in, and then I showed it to him, and he goes, see? I'm like,
crazy.
And then I started talking about funding with him. I was just sending that back and forth, and we had a great discussion from what I could, translate. Yeah. But it immediately just humbled me to like, man, we have it so good back here in the States from the firehouses that I go and tour and look at. And then in my own firehouse, my own fire department, I'm like, man, we have it so good. We got brand new trucks, brand new firehouse, and we've got hose, we've got tools and equipment, like everything that we ever need.
Yep.
But then I come back. One of the first shifts I came back, and I hear a guy from another station complaining about stuff that we don't have. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if I can only just have taken pictures of this firehouse and shown these guys, they don't have any funding there. I mean, they're in Cancun for their fire department. You think it's Cancun, big tourist town. They didn't have any for the department. So it was just immediately humbled me. Immediately did. Oh, yeah. So for the guys that are about to get a new guy, because we're about to get a brand new guy, what would be some of the ways or things, the basics that you would teach your new guys on their first day?
Man, and this is something that's new, and I haven't even talked to my crew about it, but we're probably going to be getting another recruit here in a few months. We've got a class that'll be graduating, and hopefully get another new one. And this is something, like I said, I haven't even talked to them about it, but I've heard a lot of people talk about, the whole, they come in and they're sweeping and they're cooking and they're doing all this stuff, okay, yeah, you're the new person and that's your responsibility. Okay, I get it. But what are we doing to teach them? What if we get something an hour into that first shift and we didn't do anything to prepare them for it except tell them to make coffee and sweep and stuff like that? So kind of, I've heard some things, some people talk about when they have new people come, their first day or maybe even a week or whatever, they don't do anything chore wise. It's they're learning the entire day. And I really like that. I like the idea of, as soon as they get in there, hey, you're firefighter A's responsibility. He's going to teach you so and so. And then, peel off, okay, firefighter B, now he's got some stuff to show you. And just kind of rotate through my crew of just wearing these people out with knowledge and experience and all that, just helping them to learn how we do things. Yeah, they go through a 20 something week academy, so they're going to have a good knowledge base. I totally trust our training academy to get these people as prepared as possible for people that are just in school to start a career. But it doesn't really teach them how it actually translate into the real world. How does my crew, uh, how are we going to attack a bread and butter house fire? How are we going to attack the standpipe mid-rise that we have in our district? All these different things that are specific to us. They're not going to know that until we tell them that. And so I like the idea of going through a lot of this stuff right away, just really laying things out, letting that be the focus. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of time to, harass, I give air quotes because we don't do anything mean. We harass each other all day, every day. And that's exactly how I want it. I'm on the wrong end of that harassment just as much as anybody else. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But that's one of the keys that makes us a close knit crew, is we're comfortable enough with that. We've created an environment safe enough that we know somebody is giving us a hard time. It's either A, because they like me and they love having fun like that, and I should enjoy it because it's fun, or B, maybe there's something underneath that he's trying to tell me sarcastically that I need to work on. There's always a little bit of something in there. If they're
Mhm.
harassing me about not wanting to do dishes, maybe it's because I'm not really doing dishes. I probably should look into that. So yeah, there's plenty of time to do that with them, as time goes. But that first shift or first couple shifts, I really think that we need to grab that and take as much advantage of that as we can. And so that's going to be what we do. I haven't really thought through it about what that's going to look like. In the past, we've kind of laid out a game plan of, okay, we're going to go through, so and so weeks of hose pulling and stretching, maneuvering of nozzles and all that stuff. Then we're going to go through ladders. I mean, it's endless. You can never go through everything without forgetting what you originally started with. It's just an endless loop of things that you just constantly have to keep up on. And for somebody that's new, anything that you can give them is a great thing. And so, you know, I don't know that there's a set list of things that I want to make sure that we talk to them about. It's just all of it. We're going to try every day to do something to add to their toolbox or whatever else, and hopefully over time, we're going to create a good solid firefighter that is going to have a great career and it's going to be a great asset. So it's just something kind of new that probably we're going to be working on here pretty quick.
earlier we were talking about your relationship with your wife and her kind of explaining to you or talking to you about how, when you were frustrated that your department took away one of the guys you were getting along with really well on your crew. And you gave a really good answer. I don't know if you remember that answer or not. It was before we started recording, but
Yeah,
it was
I probably can't say word for word, but
okay.
the no, it's fine. The situation that we were talking about is, you had mentioned some frustration about kind of a revolving door of people. You train with somebody, you get comfortable with them, and then boom, they're gone. You get another new person, and you got to start all the way over and over and over. And that's where I found myself a couple years ago. I was at the current station I'm at right now still about a year, and we were working on some culture stuff and rebuilding and just creating something that wasn't there previously and putting a lot of work into it. And I had some people with me that I really enjoyed working with, and one of them got taken away, and it was very frustrating. So okay, we get somebody else, and then a few months later, 6 months, whatever it was, same thing happened. I really got to where I liked this person, and okay, he's taken away. And so now we find ourselves again in this spot of starting all the way over. We worked very hard to create a crew, just unity, to where my goal on scene if we're talking fires, my goal on scene is to not say a word to anybody once I open my door until we open the door of the structure. I'm not going to say a word to them because we know what we're doing. We've got we've got writing assignments and a playbook. And if there's audibles that need to be called out, we can handle that. But otherwise, everybody's doing their own thing for that common goal. And even inside, we we have gotten comfortable enough to where there's not a lot of talking. And it's not because we don't like each other. It's not because we're not good communicators. It's because we know each other. We're comfortable with each other. They know what I normally expect and what I normally ask of them. I know what they're capable of, and it just happens. And so to have that taken away and kind of have to start over, it's a frustrating thing. I mean, I totally understand that. And after a couple times of that, I was kind of venting to my wife about it. I'm so irritated that we put so much time into these people, building them up, creating a great team, to only have it kind of stripped away and to have to start over. And she basically asked me, why are you frustrated with that? Don't you want to share this message that you have, this mission that you have? Don't you want to share the knowledge and all these things that you're doing? Don't you want to share that with more people? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I want to reach as many people as I can. She's like, well, how are you going to do that if you have the same people always? If you have the same people for years or your entire career, how are you ever going to do that? And it was like a eye-opening moment for me. It's like, if I don't get new people in, then I'm not really sharing my message with anybody except for the same people. I'm not able to add value to anybody else's lives except for this small group of people. And it was a very eye-opening kind of checking my perspective moment. I realized, and I kind of described it earlier, as she basically verbally punched me in the face and woke me up to show me that the very thing that I'm sitting here trying to do, trying to preach, I'm griping about. I can't do what I am saying I want to do if I am stuck with the same people. There's got to be some rotation. There's got to be a little bit of movement. And as much as that does suck to have to kind of start over, to have, that camaraderie, that unity, and be taken away and kind of start over, I can truly not have any more impact than just a tiny, tiny circle of my department if that doesn't occur. Hopefully the culture that we've created, the experience that we give to these people and knowledge, when they go somewhere else, hopefully they'll bring that with them and start to share their own version of that. Do I want them to be me? No, I want to just give them the knowledge base and the comfort level to share their version of what they learned with us and to make it better. I want them to take what they learned with us, and I want them to make it even better when they go wherever else. And so that's kind of what we were talking about. A definite, you know, shift in perspective for me that was very needed. And it was a critical moment of kind of my, officer career, of kind of checking myself and figuring out, okay, I got to look at this in a different way.
Do you think that you're going to become a training chief at some point?
uh, it's funny you bring that up. I have no intentions of anything more than what I'm doing right now for quite a while. I have so much to learn and so
Hey,
much
you
to
did tell me earlier,
wrap
don't
my hand around.
to
I, if
it.
if I ever thought about being some type of chief, I think that's probably would be one of the more attractive things for me, just because you have that ability to reach so many people.
Yes.
Not only the entire department, but everybody new that comes in. And so, yes, that I would imagine someday that would be an attractive role that I could possibly search for. Right now, absolutely not. But yeah, someday.
So you talked earlier about doing some conferences, and it was before we were recording, and I talked to you about like how that would be very difficult to do. So you had to come up with some source material to do these conferences. What was a lot of your study material that you used to reference for you to create a course?
Study material was life, man. Experience. I didn't the classes that I have, you know, yeah, I bring a lot from, like we mentioned earlier, the Viscuso, the Thompsons, the people that I really look up to and that I absorb their content really well. Yeah, a lot of that becomes part of who I am. So I guess you can call that research material. But really, the stuff I talk about in my classes are things that I've learned through experience. Coming to this station and really having to create a culture from the ground up, having to learn from mistake after mistake after mistake as an officer, because to be honest, we just don't have much officer development or any kind of development like that to speak of at my department. So you're kind of given the keys, and it's like, there you are, that's yours. And it's like, okay, what do I do with it? I mean, you don't really know. You just got to learn. And man, I'm telling you, I've screwed a lot up for sure. And so that's really what my classes are. It's talking about the mistakes I made. It's talking about, the wins that we're starting to now see after years of work, and just hopefully helping people to learn from my mistakes so that they don't have to make them. I think that's a major goal for me, is if I can learn a mistake that somebody else made before I make it myself, man, that's awesome. I'll take that all day long, because I hate messing up. I hate screwing things up or looking like an idiot or any of that stuff. I just hate it. But at the same time, I know that is a critical piece of growth. If I am not messing up, that means that I'm probably not pushing myself in any direction. I'm at a comfort level zone that I'm not messing up, because I'm not really stressing myself out. I'm not pushing myself to the edge of my ability. And so it's just part of it. So that's really, a lot of what I talk about is just the things that I've learned personally, the things I've seen, and just how I've learned to handle stuff and how we have handled stuff as a crew.
When you talked about hating messing up and looking like an idiot, I'm not I'm not saying that I love messing up, but during a training or during an exercise, I like making mistakes sometimes, because I found a way not to do something, or I found a way that just didn't work. And now that I know, that's going to imprint on my head that if I have this similar situation, to not do this at all.
Yeah.
But it also makes a huge difference on who's around you when that happens. What type of people are around you?
Yeah.
I've got an officer right now that I've made a couple of mistakes in front of him, and I expected a different response from him, and he completely surprised me with, "Yeah, hey, you learned not to do that. Let's just find a different way to do it." I'm like,
Yeah.
whew.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good about making a mistake, because
Oh yeah.
everyone makes mistakes, and it's
Yeah.
better to find out a way how something doesn't work versus then how it does on your first try, and then like, oh hey, I lucked out on my first try. Or there's some basic concepts that are pretty simple. It uses a lot of common sense, but there are some things out there that you might need to make a couple mistakes to learn the best way to do it, or the best way
Yeah.
that works for you, because there's not only one way to do something. There's so many different ways. So when you notice somebody making a mistake, being a senior guy or somebody who's an officer, recognizing the mistake and then trying to help them work through it, and not forcing them or telling them that they're, hey, you're wrong, and then that's it, and then
Yeah.
talking down to them, making them feel like an idiot, because that guy right there, you could ruin that guy's experience in the fire service by just
Yeah.
constantly shutting him down,
Yeah.
constantly
Yeah.
turning him away. It's a
Yeah.
it's a huge deal. I've had to deal
Yeah.
with it before, and I'm sure I'm not
I'm
the only one.
I'm very leery of people that don't mess up, because like I said, if you're not messing up, it probably means you're not doing much,
Mm.
because especially in our line of work, it's so dynamic, and there's so many things to know and to get good at. You're not going to master any. I mean, okay, maybe if you're lucky, you can master one little area. I don't know. Maybe there's people that are a lot better than that I am. But to me, I don't think we're ever going to really master much. We have got to continue to hit all of these different areas. And so that being the case, you're going to mess up. And so if you're somebody that really never seems to mess up, you're probably somebody that's not really pushing themselves to do anything outside of just, you know, super basic stuff that you are comfortable with doing. And I'll stretch that out to the area that I find is the biggest concern with me, and that with that topic is officers. Man, we need to do a better job as officers of involving ourselves in training, of being right there with our people, doing what our people are doing. I at my I do a little bit of work for volunteer department at home too, but when I am at work for my main job, there's there's a very tiny chance that I will ever pull a line. There's a very tiny chance that I will ever force a door or do really any firefighter task. But I guarantee you, when we're doing those things in training, I'm going to be right there doing it with them. And yeah, I'm going to be right there screwing it up, because that's not what I'm doing normally. It's something that I'm not as good as they are with. But that right there is such a huge thing to me. And the reason I do it, one of the reasons I do it, is because I want them to see that, okay, this guy, this isn't even his job, but he is putting himself out here, willing to put that effort out to not only just be part of the crew, but to be okay with messing up. So if that's the case, what excuse do I have not to? You know, I can't say that I don't want to do that if he's doing it. It's not even his job. And so I feel like that's a really good opportunity to get some buy-in from people, and to really create some unity, because I want to be a part of the crew on their terms. I don't just want to be a part of a crew on my terms. I want to be a part of the crew on their terms as well. And that means that I'm going to have to go outside of my little realm of comfort, my little, job descriptions, all that stuff. And so it's big to me. And I really wish that there was more officers out there, and even go higher, chief officers that get involved, because man, that's the kind of person I want to work for. I want to work for the station officer or the chief that's not afraid to get their hands dirty,
Yeah,
that's not afraid
it
to
makes a
do
huge
exactly
difference.
what they ask of me. So say what, do what?
It makes a huge difference. Sorry, I didn't
Oh
mean
yeah. No, you're fine.
Over there. There she goes. She sees it now. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Two things. One was a comment that you made earlier that made me remind me of this. Not stepping out of your comfort zone and not ever trying anything new. There was a quote. I heard Jordan Peterson say it. I'm in a book that I was reading of his, or I read of his. Somebody else said it. I just looked it up. It looks like Confucius said it, but if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And that was something that after I heard Jordan Peterson talk about that and kind of break that discussion down on it, it really got me thinking of which I'm obviously not the smartest person, but if I'm trying to be the best that I can be, and I am consistently trying to prove to myself that I can do anything I set my mind to, or if I'm accomplishing everything, either the goals that I have are too weak or too easily obtainable, or I need to challenge myself harder.
Yeah.
So I completely changed a couple of years ago with who I hung out with, who I spent time with, what did I put inside, what am I putting inside my body? You know, what am I listening to all the time? Am I listening to just, you know, plain old rap music that's got nothing behind it, but just talking about women and drugs? Well, that's pointless. I'm not going to get anywhere listening to that. I quit listening to that. So I started listening to different music, and then I started changing up. Like, who am I hanging out with? All right, these groups of guys that I'm hanging out with, all they like to do is drink and party. I need to get rid of these guys. I need to switch to somebody who's wanting to become successful. Then I start hanging out with, you know, around successful people. Then you start picking up on their qualities. You start picking up on their little niches they have and stuff that they do. And then you take that in like, all right, I want to apply this to my work life. And then I start applying it to my work life. And then you get guys that they don't want to do that stuff. And then you kind of figure out who am I going to hang out with? Who am I not going to hang out with? Because these guys are being too negative. Man, hey, I understand that you're upset with your life, but I can't have that in my life right now. Like I need to have some self-support. I need to have some support from the people around me, and I will always support you with what you're doing. I always want what's best for everybody. But if you're always just the best person everywhere you walk, you're hanging out with the wrong people. Who's your crowd? Who are the people? Who's your little gang you're hanging out with? Are they a bunch of turds or are they a bunch of winners? And it sounds kind of like a douchebaggery thing to say, but it's completely true. If you're hanging out with guys that are turds, you're going to become a turd over time. If you have a crew that is just lazy, most likely you're going to become lazy over time.
Yep.
That's that decision of, and I've seen other guys, you know, be on crews that were known to be lazier crews, and they have a guy gets put onto there because either they just get hired and they're a pretty good dude and they're good firemen. They want to do the best they can, but they're stuck with a crew that's not really interested. Then you have to make that call. Am I going to stay here or am I going to get out? And some guys, they have trouble trying to get out because they don't want to be mean to somebody. But when they finally do get out, best decision they've ever made. And that's something that's exciting to see. But it also, the issue I have is, why do we still have that crew? Like, what is it? Not like get rid of them, fire them, not that. How can we get to them?
Yeah.
To reignite that old flame. And it's, I talked about that in another episode with a fire chief, and how to reignite that flame. Well, you got to get there and talk to those guys to try to see how can we take those smoldering embers and turn it back into a fire. Yeah. What is it going to take? And that's something that it's difficult, and that person has to want to try. If they don't want to try, if they're checked out and they're ready to go, I'm sorry, but they're ready to go.
Yeah.
You got to go. It's that decision that they'd have to make. Are they going to get somebody injured because they're not exercising as much as they should? Which, I mean, you seem like a fit guy, and you're a captain. You're probably in your 40s?
43.
43? Hey, that's my favorite number, actually. So you seem like a fit guy. It's something that if you're extremely overweight, are people going to take you seriously when you start saying, hey, you got to work out? Yeah. Nah, bud, I ain't going to listen to you. You don't even know the first thing about working out. You got to take it seriously. You got to take your job seriously. You have to take yourself seriously. If you don't take yourself seriously, who will? That's just something that I always go on a little rant about, especially with physical fitness. That's something I'm pretty big on.
Yeah, and something like that, I talked about the classes I give are from experience, and just like what you just said, another experience that I've learned from is sometimes you have taken somebody as far as you can take them. Sometimes it's time to open up that seat to somebody that can benefit from all the good things you're trying to do. And that was a hard lesson I had to learn because I wanted so badly to not give up on somebody. I wanted so badly to be the person that really made a difference. And I just couldn't. I finally had to realize and finally had to be honest with myself that I couldn't be that person that did it. I did as much as I could. I invested as much as I could, but I did not achieve what I was wanting to. And now we're in a bad place because it's starting to negatively affect me. It's starting to take away some of the good things I'm trying to do. And so I had to come to terms with that. I've taken you as far as I can take you. I'm not, I've got nothing bad to say other than that, but this is the end of the road with us. That seat needs to be opened up to somebody that is going to take advantage of this crew. The not only the fun that we have as a crew, not only being a part of a true team environment and family environment, but to truly absorb the good things we are doing to grow and learn.
That's
And
pretty interesting
so,
to say that. Sorry. Taking
no,
advantage
go
of
ahead.
the crew. That's a pretty interesting term, to take advantage of this crew. That's kind of got me thinking a little bit more of like, hey, you got to use us somehow. Like, how are you going to use us? And what aspect can we be used to help increase the knowledge and the leadership of our department? That's something that I find very interesting, the way you said that.
And man, I try sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I try to be intentional about what I'm saying because some of the things I say can be taken as pretty arrogant. But it's not out of arrogance. It's out of true pride in who we are, true pride in how hard we work to create what we've created and what we're a part of. That's what it's out of. And yeah, it's something of value. And if you're not taking advantage of that value, then I'm sorry, but there are too many people out there that would die to have a crew that wants to do the things that we want to do. So why am I wasting time on somebody that doesn't want it? Why? I'm not going to anymore. It's time to let that opportunity open up for somebody else. So
That's
yeah,
pretty good that you brought that up of why am I going to waste this time on somebody else? The important thing on that is giving, it's everything before the
oh
I
yeah,
got to stop. It's
absolutely,
not
yeah,
just, hey, this guy's really not motivated. Well, what have you guys done to work with him?
yeah,
Really too much. I need to see you guys work with him first before you can, we kick him out of here. It's
yeah,
giving him every chance, because I will be the first to admit I was the guy that would have been fired when I was part time because I wasn't given the chance and I wasn't given the right direction and leadership. I was
yeah,
18 years old. I was a kid, and I needed that leadership. I needed that wing that to come out and say, all right, this is how we're going to do this. You seem like you got a good head on your shoulders. You want what's best, but you're a moron. You're pretty stupid. You say dumb stuff. You do stupid things, but we're going to get you on the right path. And
yeah,
that sometimes is what's needed. And look at me today. I'm halfway decent, and I've got a full-time job, and I've got a passion for it.
yeah,
But there's also those guys that you gotta pick with. You gotta find that alleyway that's the brightest. You can't find the dark ones. And once you find that bright alleyway and you get those guys that are motivated and determined and dedicated to the job, it completely can change somebody's career. Completely change. And then what else do you know that you're doing? With you doing your podcast, you could be affecting so many different people that you'll never meet, and changing careers and changing departments over time, because over time it'll change a department for good or for worse, but either way it's still pretty important.
and it's amazing how many times we hear. Luckily for us, we're a small firehouse in the northwest corner of our town. We're away from everything. We don't hear a lot of rumors. We don't we're not involved in any of that stuff anyway, but we're just kind of left alone. But still, you hear these things about people. This person is terrible. He's worthless, blah, blah, blah. And eventually we'll get this person to travel out with us, and we'll sit there and invest just a little bit of us into them. And it's like, he seemed fine to me. We didn't have a problem with him at all. Or yeah, we had some issues with him, but we sat down and talked to him, and it was great after that. It's like, have you even sat down to talk to him about this stuff, or you just talking behind his back without truly giving them a chance to learn that what they're doing is not right? They need to do better. I mean, it's very frustrating to me to see and hear that stuff, because that's a problem. It's a big problem in the fire service. We're very quick to judge, and we are very slow to share us, to share ourselves with others. And that's a thing that needs to be switched. We need to be quick to share ourselves and our experience and our knowledge with others, and we need to be very slow, if at all, to judge other people until we truly get a good picture of what we got for sure.
That seems to be something that, and obviously I use a lot of the leadership books. Guys will always shout out to me if I do read a couple of them. A lot of stuff reminds me back to what the Bible talks about, and the Bible is a great leadership book. And I don't know if you seem like you kind of had some faith, a little closer, leaning closer towards faith in the Bible.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the post. I wrote a question out for it, and I believe I sent it to you. But
Yep.
is there any verses that stick to you, or stories that stick with you from the Bible that you use towards work or the fire department?
It's not just the fire department, it's just life. And the biggest thing to me, I was thinking about this last night when you sent that to me. It's the golden rule, man. It's probably the most cliche thing to say. I don't care, but that that could simplify so much of life if we just followed it. I mean, one of my best friends a while back, he's retired now, but we were talking about some leadership stuff. He was actually studying to be promoted to an officer at the time, and he's just said, man, you could eliminate so much of this material if you just had a book and you open it up and it said, lead people like you want to be led. And I was like, man, I completely agree with that. And a couple of my classes, I've got some slides that talk about golden rule leadership, and that's exactly what it is. And you could sum up almost everything that we need to learn and we need to act by just by that. How are you going to lead people in a way that you wouldn't want to be led by, and expect any kind of buy-in, or expect any kind of respect, or expect anything out of those people? I mean, why would you do that? You don't want it. You don't want to be treated like that. You don't want to be led like that. Then so why do you think it's going to work with somebody else? And so I think that's a very easy answer for me to say that. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry.
That's cool. I always find it different. I always find it interesting in people's responses with that. When you sit there and talk to them, like, "Hey, the best leadership book out there is the Bible," and they're like, "What?" Well, man, read any leadership book, and it's got to reference the Bible somehow, or there's a reference in it, and all.
Yeah, indirectly at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah, and which is I always find interesting. What is your favorite book to read?
Uh, Man, I've actually, I don't read anything. I don't. I've read a few books over the past couple of years, but I absorb all my books through audio,
Yeah,
and that's just because of time. Man, I'm very slim on time, and I'm sure I could carve out more if I truly put my head to it. But like we talked about earlier, I've got a 100 miles, literally. I mean, like 100.3 miles from my door to the door of the firehouse that I work at, and so thankfully I've taken advantage of that completely wasted time to really use it as a great opportunity to grow over the years. And I listen to a lot of audiobooks, listen to a lot of podcasts, but A few here lately that I've, and some of the best ones overall that I've listened to have been lately, and is one of them is Leadership and Self-Deception, and that's by the Arbinger Institute, which is kind of weird, but man, that's a great book, a great book to really kind of help you realize how we as humans view other humans. You know, it basically sums up things as saying it's the lies we tell each ourselves to kind of give reason to put ourselves above other people. You know, it's the, you know, I'm doing this out of good intentions and it's irritating that they're not because they're lazy. Well, I don't know that. You know, it's just that's probably a lie I'm telling myself to justify how, you know, I'm raising myself above others. And it, man, it's a good one for sure. Another one I really like is It's Your Ship by, I believe it's Michael Abrashoff. You know, it's a naval officer that was given a battleship that was the worst in the fleet, and he completely transformed it into the best ship in the fleet over, I think, is about a 20-month span that he was on there. And just some, that one is really good because there's so many things in there that you can just directly plug right into Firehouse life. I mean, it's so comparable to what we deal with and just that environment that, man, there's a lot in there, especially if you're somebody in that formal leadership role to learn from and to use. So those are two for sure that I've really enjoyed over the past few months.
In your episode you did on with firefighter success with Jim Moss, one of the things you talked about was you being captain, you're responsible for the readiness of your crew. So what qualities do you consider of your company to being labeled as ready?
For me, I don't think that's a destination. I don't think that's a like a location. It's not something we're going to be at. I think it's just, again, kind of restating something I've said several times. It's knowing that we are doing something every day to get better and hopefully be ready for whatever's going to come to us. Are we going to 100% be, you know, skill wise prepared for what comes to us? Probably not. We're probably going to be faced with something eventually that we're not prepared for. That as much as we work, as hard as we try, we're still going to be faced with things that are just overwhelming that we are not ready to face. But for me, that path of growth and that pursuit of just trying to get better is going to make those situations handle more able. I'm tripping over my words here. We're going to be more adapt to handle those situations because we are prepared in the you know, the more basic stuff. So when those big things or when those crazy complicated things come around, we're not prepared for them, you know, as you would say, but we are ready to handle it. We are ready to figure out how to address whatever's come to us. You know, I think that growth is it. You know, that you, if you truly want to work towards preparedness, it's got to come from learning. It's got to come from growth, because if you don't have those, you're not going to get any better than you are right now. So that path is the only way to get there.
Why do you think guys fight against culture? Why do you guys think? Why do you think that they don't try to push that tradition of culture of the fire service on others, or do you think that they
That's
just are
that's easy. That's an easy question to answer because it's freaking hard. It's very hard, and it's very time consuming, and it is a very slow process. If you are somebody that's impatient, which I'm pretty impatient, if you're somebody that wants instant gratification, culture is going to rub you all kinds of wrong, because if you're trying to change culture quickly, If you're trying to change culture and just expect things to work perfectly, then man, you're going to be absolutely frustrated with it, because it is it is something that takes a long time to see the progress. It's something that takes a lot of work, takes a lot of investment of your time and your energy. And if you aren't truly invested in wanting that to happen, then you're not going to have what it takes to make it happen. I'll just say that. I've heard it said several times. I wish I knew who truly is the originator of it, but basically they describe culture, and I think John Dixon. I'll try to give credit to at least somebody I know I've heard it from. But culture is like a huge ship with a tiny little rudder. That ship has got some momentum. It's going to go somewhere. And if you're wanting to change the direction of that ship to a positive place, yeah, you change the rudder, obviously, but it's going to take a long time for that ship to make that curve, that turn. And so I think that's a great illustration of it. It's a very slow process, but all that being said, man, if you make it, if you have you have it inside you to keep pushing to the point of you start seeing these benefits, you start seeing these changes, man, there is nothing more gratifying than to make it to that point. And by make it to that point, I don't mean you're there. I mean to finally start seeing that change and let that continue in that right direction. But yeah, it's hard. And people just don't want to put that into it. So if you're not that kind of person that is truly invested, you're not going to be able to really create anything like that.
Do you think since starting doing podcasting, it's had a responsibility for you to stay consistent with what you do at your job?
Oh, absolutely. You talking about like a accountability type thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you put pictures out of your crew training and talk about, trying to strive for daily growth. Yeah, I guarantee you, I'm not the kind of person to be okay with not trying my best to get that. And that's been an area of personal frustration towards myself a lot. Sorry, I've got dogs barking if you can hear that.
It's
But
all right.
personal frustration to myself, as in there have been times in the past couple years that we weren't doing great in that area, especially in 2020. You had to shut down, and man, that was a tough time to be a station officer. It was a tough time for anybody, but to be somebody that was in charge of the morale, the attitude of a crew, and to not have any of that yourself, man, it was a hard time. And I had to really hold myself accountable to, I'm not going to put this stuff out if I'm not trying. And a lot of it, if I look back on those times, a lot of the stuff I was putting out was just me, pictures of me. And it wasn't because I like to put pictures of me or videos of me, but it was because I was out there doing it myself. I felt like if I was the person to talk about this, if I'm the person to try to push this culture on my crew, I better be out there doing it. Even if I'm the only one doing it, I better be out there doing it. And no, I'm not perfect. I was not out there every single day, but that's kind of that time period for myself. And exactly what you're saying, that was a good benefit for me to push me to do it, is putting that kind of persona out there and not wanting to be the guy that talks about something but doesn't do it. So yeah, that was a good accountability tool for myself.
Do you end up getting a lot of crap from guys at your department for being on, talking to all these people and posting on
I
Insta?
I don't personally, but I get a lot of indirect conversation. This person hears this, or you know, I, it's funny because we've got a crew of 5 people, but we only have we've got four person engine company. So that fifth person is traveling a lot, to other stations. They get sent out. And so, pretty often I'll get a firefighter come back and say, man, that, those guys, they tell, oh, you're from station 3, you're all you do is train all the time and this and that. And, just goofy stuff like that. And it's like, we literally probably train an hour a day, maybe 2 hours at the most. But, just in that little bit of time, we did some good stuff. We got a lot out of it. But to take a step back and think, I am being viewed as somebody that trains all the time, but really all I'm doing is spending 30 minutes to an hour and a half on average to do something with my crew. Can we not do that in 24 hours? Can we not devote an average of 1 hour to doing something? And it's just funny that's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the label I guess I've gotten. And I don't care. I mean, they can think whatever they want to think. I don't portray myself as being somebody that trains all the time. I don't post anything that says we're training all day every day. I try to be very honest about that. We only spend a little bit of time doing stuff, but we're going to try our best to do something every day to do that. And I put a post out and actually a podcast out the other day, kind of talking about that and being honest about some feelings that I was feeling, some feelings of failure, because we don't do that every day. We don't. There are days that we don't get that done, but I got to take a step back and look at what we did do that day. We did spend 16 hours of a shift together, having fun, enjoying each other's company, taking care of medical calls that come up, playing a little cornhole or pickleball or whatever it is in the in between times, having three, at least 2 meals together, 3 sometimes together. Every time a meal is on, we're eating together. And to see that that's a win. We didn't do anything to train that day, but we did something to bring us together as a crew that day. And I, as an officer of that crew, I've got to look at that as, man, that was a great day. And I can't be so hard on myself to to make it unrealistic to get something done every day on my terms. Again, I'll use that again. Sometimes we have wins on other people's terms. Sometimes a victory is different looking than what I think it should look like. Sometimes success in that shift is painted a different way than I would have originally painted it. But you know what? It's still success. It's still victory. It was still a good day that we benefited from. And so that's something that I really, again, something else I've kind of am learning and still learning to grasp and really get a hold of.
In your district that you have for your department, do you have a lot more residential? Do you have warehouses, strip malls, high rise? What do you have out there in Oklahoma?
We mostly residential. It's my district is very interesting because we've got a couple trailer parks, and we've got a couple neighborhoods that are freaking gigantic houses. It's a very weird mix. We do have one pretty good size apartment complex. It's 4 stories high. It's got standpipe. So I don't know what you call it, mid-rise or whatever, but that's the highest we got. No real big warehouses or anything. We've got a Lowe's and Walmart, so some big commercial buildings, but mostly just residential.
Sorry, I had a snack on something.
No, it's all right.
I got me a Cliff Bar. In case you guys were just listening in, I apologize. It's my chill, which I don't care. No, that's something that brings up a pretty interesting point, because for the younger guys out there, this is something that I did that I learned from a guy that I worked with for a while. Was whenever I'd get put in the officer's seat, I would be the ride out. And then an easy way of training at different locations, because it's always, when you would train at the firehouse, you know where everything's at. You know how, like, all right, we're going to be pulling cross lays right here, which is our tackle lines. We're going to be pulling a tackle lines right here. And it's just the same thing over and over again. There's no change. Something that we used to do was we'd call somebody that lived in our district. We'd a friend of ours or friend of the department or something. And we'd ask, hey, can we come pull a hand line in your front yard? Like,
Yeah.
pretend like we're going to your house. And every single time, like, I don't care, go ahead and do it. So we would pull up, and we wouldn't drive up to the house first and then drive back around and be like, all right, we got our game plan. It would be, hey, that's his house down the street over there on the right. This is the address. We're going to pull up to it like it's an actual fire and it's rocking. So we would do that over and over again. We had multiple houses of people that we'd go to. At the time, my sister lived in our district. So we just randomly show up and the kids would get to watch. But that was something that made a huge difference. And we'd have 4 or 5 houses that we'd go to each shift and practice on. And obviously, yeah, people are calling in asking what's going on, but that made a huge difference of changing locations up, changing that up, that atmosphere, adding in vehicles, adding in people walking by, adding in the school bus that's coming up, and you got to sit there and figure out, all right, how are we going to do this? Or you've got, people doing landscaping on that same property, and they're walking out as soon as you want. It's just, it changes the whole dynamic of all those situations. Obviously, if it's on fire, they're going to be heading out of there anyways. They'll understand what we're doing. But it was something that was very interesting to me, and it's something that I didn't see a lot of other guys doing. And it's kind of difficult to do because unless you don't know anybody in your district, you can't just randomly walk up to someone's house. But that was something that I found to be very useful for a training aspect. Do you guys use? Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny you bring that up. Literally last week, we just drove around a couple neighborhoods looking for sale signs, and couldn't find any houses for sale, but we did find a house that had a for rent sign in the driveway. And so kind of thought, okay, this is probably the best chance we got. So pulled up, we knocked on the door, nobody answered. So that's exactly what we did. Just use that as a house to kind of operate some of that stuff off of. And
go ahead and force the door in. It's already for rent.
Yeah, we didn't go that far.
Taking windows out, start cutting holes in the roof.
It's something else, man. You talk about that. Something else that is super, super critical and beneficial. And we don't get it a lot, but acquired houses, acquired structures. If your department has that at their fingertips, if they've got something you can use, man, don't waste that opportunity. That's such an awesome opportunity to get into houses and do stuff. I don't know, there might be restrictions that you got to follow, whatever you can do, take advantage of that. We've got a couple right now that our department has, and so we spent the last couple Sundays running up there and doing a few things at them. And man, that's an awesome opportunity. I'll keep saying the same words, but
raining on Sunday.
Hey, it's a shift, man.
That's exactly what I'll say. Like,
exactly.
I hear that because we'll do trainings on Sundays as well, and guys are like, "You guys do training on Sunday?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's another shift you work. Like, I'm not going to come in on Monday. Like, you might as well just go ahead and knock it out. It's just a Sunday."
Well, bro. if you think about it, and my driver's the one that brought this up, man, the weekends are the best opportunity to do. You're not going to have school buses. You're not going to have trash trucks. You're not going to have construction crews and lawn mowing crews and people in and out going to work and things like that. The opportunities are much greater to do training without having to work around all these other things. And something else we like to do is if we got neighborhoods that are like in construction, find some houses that are at different stages, not completely done, obviously, but have the stud walls up, or have be closed in at least, and do some stuff there. And you can't do that with construction crews in their building. So just a great opportunity to go and kind of learn some building construction, learn how to move around in a house that, okay, it doesn't have sheetrock, it doesn't have any furniture, but you're still able to kind of figure out what you would need to do, or all that. So yeah, I mean, Weekends are, and that's going back to that whole perception thing with myself. That is, uh, I'll put I'll put making somebody train on a weekend up with any negative thing in history. Talking about you know dictators and evil people. You're right there with them if you're making people train on a weekend. And I don't get it. I like two Sundays ago. It was cold. I wanted to take advantage of that house, so I talked to the crew. As when do you want to do it? You want to do it right now, get it knocked out first thing? You want to eat first, whatever. We decided to go right away. So we got stuff checked out. We went and did it. We were literally back at the house and cooking breakfast at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. I mean, why? And that was it. Even on weekdays, I tell them, man, you give me something in the morning. We do something to train, to learn, whatever, and I guarantee you, we're not, we're done. I'm not gonna find busy work for you. I'm not gonna, continue to wear you out about something. We do something good and take advantage of this day, and even if it's early, we're done for the day. We get the stuff that has to be done at the firehouse, and that's it. And I don't know why that's so drastic and so difficult to really be okay with. I lost your audio, man.
I do
There you
apologize. I,
go.
I muted it because I thought I was going to cough and I forgot to unmute. I find that the guys that do like they send you with the busy work, they find some stuff for you to do. The guys that are as confident enough in their knowledge or their expertise for the job, because how are they going to build that relationship up when they're not doing it themselves? So I'd rather just have you guys just do busy work. Go ahead and take care of this. I don't need to train you on anything. That's how what I take from it. And that's something that I just having busy work for people to do, I find to be pointless. It doesn't do anything,
Oh yeah.
doesn't do anything. It's it just it's demonstrative, and it's something that would just tear down their pride for either the firehouse, for that crew, or for that person. And
Yeah.
obviously everybody knows like there's going to be people out there that are assholes. There's going to be those guys that you respect the rank and not the person. Like there's plenty of those at every department. And that's something that I don't really truly agree having those people on the department, but you have to have your boundaries. You have to have your good and you have to have your bad. And where are you going to be at in that
Yeah.
whole list? Like, are you wanting to be closer to the needle of the bad side? Are you looking to be one of the better guys? Are you looking to be the best? It's
Yeah.
where are you wanting to find yourself, and then go ahead and apply yourself. It's the biggest thing is just applying yourself to a lot of these tasks throughout the day through training, being the first guy to stand up and try something new, being the first guy to admit when he's wrong. I'm wrong just about every day. I'm wrong on something, and I'm proud when I'm wrong because then I
Yeah.
learn what's the right answer. Earlier I was going to ask you the question, or deployments. Now we talked about this. I saw a video on your Instagram of you guys pulling like a 300-foot front bumper section, and
Yeah.
I messaged you and I asked you like, what was that about? And you were talking about for longer lays for like, was it residences or which was it?
Yeah. And that's like I told you, that was kind of a trial period thing.
Mhm.
We had one of our other captains at another shift, another station, kind of propose to add 300-foot lines to all the engines. And so we were kind of working with them to do some experimenting, do some trials and stuff like that. And so for us, every district is different, obviously, but for us, we've got some areas that there are some, 150, plus driveways from the road, and some of those aren't going to be accessible with an engine. They're just kind of small gravel driveways, and so you're stretching from the road to whatever distance it is to the house. And so at that point, you're going to have to extend. Everything we have is 200 feet. Our engine, there are very few things that we will say about our engine that we really like. It's a mess, but one of the cool things about our engine is we do have two lines in the front bumper. Uh, what they are is a 100-foot trash line and one 200-foot pre-connect. So what we were doing is just playing around with the idea of increasing that 200 feet to a 300-foot line for those situations, so that it's already connected. We just go, we just take off and go. We don't have to worry about 2.5-inch feeder line or anything like that. And so it would have been a great tool to have, I think, but ultimately it was nixed by administration for some reasons that I cannot wrap my head around, that are just completely, I don't get the mindset. I don't get, but it is what it is. We don't have that ability to make that choice. And so no, we don't carry 200-foot lines. I think it would be a good tool for us because of, like I said, we do have situations that it would come in play. We've got a few apartment buildings that are kind of spread out, to where if you have a fire in one of the buildings in the inside of it, it's going to be a long stretch. And so that's another opportunity to use that. But it is what it is. We tried our best to kind of show the usefulness of it, but in the end, it did not go.
The idea of driving around to find out, all right, how much hose will it take for us to get to the front door? And then how much hose is it going to take for us to get to the front door, all the way up the stairs, all the way around a couple of the hallways into a room? And do we have enough hose? And then being able to communicate that with your officer, and your officer with your backstepper, then you to the driver, trying to figure out, all right, what is it going to take? There's a spot in our district that's at the edge of our district that connects up to another department's district. And it's a residence that's off of a pretty long driveway. It's a wooded driveway, and you can't really drive a fire truck all the way down. You can go part way down, but you can't go all the way down. It's probably a half-mile driveway. And I was over at a friend's house who lives over in a court just next to the property that guy owns. And I was sitting in the back porch and I was looking, and I was like, man, I could see that guy's house from here through the woods. You have to go, a little over a creek. You go through all the woods and get to that house. And I was like, I can get a hand line going into this other neighborhood to that house faster than you deploying a yard lay all the way down that guy's driveway. So that's something that and then a couple shifts later, I showed my officer that, and I said, hey, let's drive over here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And we drove on the road that house was on. And I said, all right, this is the driveway I'm talking about. And it's just all, trees just covering everything. We couldn't drive all the way down. And then I said, but here's where the house is at. So I drove through another neighborhood, went to a court in that other neighborhood, and you can look in between the houses, and then you see maybe 50, 75, 100 or 100 yards off that court, you can see that house.
Yeah.
But if we were never to be driving around, if I was never to be just kind of looking around, never would have seen that. So if that house does catch on fire, we know that we're going to I know where we're going to go. I know the court we're going to be hitting. I know where the hydrant's at. It's just the pre-planning of it. It's the importance of knowing your district. Like you talked about, you having the trailer parks. We've got a couple trailer parks too, and they're fun to go to. They're so much fun. But understanding in those things are tin boxes. They get hot. They fall apart pretty quickly. But understanding how your district is laid, understanding the ins and outs. I mean, we got to know those districts like the back of our hands, especially if you're a driver. You got to be the guy you got to be Johnny on the spot with everything. You have to have an answer before it's ever asked. Like you got to get that stuff figured out. It's something that I'm a driver, and I enjoy that aspect of it, trying to figure out, like, okay, how am I going to get these guys water? Is that pool going to be my answer, or is this hydrant going to work for me? If this hydrant ain't working for me, where's my next one? And then who's bringing me my next one? And it's that communication as well with other engines and other apparatus that is coming in.
Yeah.
You guys catch a fire. When you pull up on scene, what is one of the first few things that run through your mind? Or even, actually, I apologize, on the way to the scene? What's running through your mind?
Man, it's all kind of dependent really where we're going. If we're talking about a trailer house, or if we're talking about one of these gigantic golf course, houses that we have, obviously there's a lot more concerns with that than a small single wide trailer. But at the same time, the hazards are they're there no matter what. For me, if I'm being honest on the way there, man, I'm just trying to get ready. I'm trying to make sure I know where the heck we're going, and just trying to kind of make sure I'm squared away, because I have I've screwed that up too. I've sent us on the wrong direction and completely screwed up a call, and went from being first in to being, you know, irrelevant, whatever. And so I don't want to do that ever again. So that is really my focus. I try to pay very little attention to the information that we're getting, to be honest. I hate to hear anything to do with people being inside the structure, unless it's positive that there is. As far as people being out, I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from dispatch. I don't want it to be transferred from the battalion chief. I just don't. I wish that we could completely take that out of the equation. Unless there is somebody that we know is inside, I don't think there should be any information given about residents, because if we're grasping at, okay, I've got to hear an all clear, and I've heard it before. A neighbor says that the structure's all clear, everybody's out. I don't give a crap about what the neighbor has to say. Do they really know? I mean, honestly, I think about it in my, from my perspective. And we talked about, we've got 7 kids. Some of them have moved out, so we don't have all of them here. But over the years with these 7 kids, I think about all the times that they either had friends over or they were at somebody else's house. We're a blended family, so usually, know, if it's my biological kids, I'll kind of handle more of the discussion of what that is, and then we'll talk about it. If it's hers, then she'll kind of handle it, and then we'll talk about it. But there are lots of times when, if we had a fire at my house, I couldn't guarantee you in the front yard, I could tell you who was at my house. And that's just life. You add in stress to anybody's life, and you can't guarantee what's coming out of their mouth to be true. You just can't. And so I really hate that. If it's something fire wise, we're talking about visible flames from several callers. Okay, that's great information. No, we're probably going to have something to do when we get there. If it's smoke that we're seeing from a ways off, yeah, I'll take that stuff in. But really, to be honest, my focus from leaving the station to arriving on scene is just making sure I'm prepared, making sure that everything is where it needs to be. I know where I'm going. I'm talking to my driver about what hydrant situation is, so we got a good plan on that. If there's something kind of squirrely in the information that I need to pass on to others, or I see that it's one of those long driveways that we're talking about, I'm going to be kind of game planning with my crew in the back. Hey, this is one of those long driveways. We're probably going to be stretching from the road. Go ahead and grab 100 feet of 2.5, whatever. Because like I said, once I open that door, I don't want there to be. I don't want to have to give directions about stupid, simple stuff that they should know what to do. I don't like. Just an example, when I was new, really up to probably the first 17 years of my career, I didn't know what riding assignments were. I'd never heard of them. It was literally firefighters in the back. If the fire's on your side, you got the line. And okay, I get it. That's kind of a plan, but it's not. I don't, that means that I don't know what I'm doing in the back until I get on scene and look to see where the fire is. And it's just a waste, because me being an officer now, that takes so much off of my plate if they don't have to be told everything to do, because I can focus on the things I need to focus on now, not just the, hey, so and so pull the line, so and so go force the door. I don't need to do that. that is something we should have done way before a fire comes in. So yeah, I would say, just be honest with you, I don't do a lot of kind of preparing other than just getting ready on the way.
Yeah, that's still pretty important, getting ready on the way. That whole thing of finding out with seat assignments and finding out you don't have to really talk to every single person when you get there on scene. I haven't had a ton of fires at the department I work at. We don't get a ton, but training enough with your guys to where when you arrive on a scene, maybe say one or two things and you get to go to work. And that's the
Yeah.
best part about it. That's the best part about, obviously we want fires. The public doesn't want it, but we want fires, and we want to be able to have those making those memories together, to being able to extinguish it, do whatever you want, break some doors down, kick some windows out with a tool,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. But I thank you so much for coming on and talking and giving me some free information, and then also just the discussion. I really enjoyed it. I really do appreciate it, Jeremy.
No problem, man. I appreciate the invite. And I love doing this stuff. I love kind of doing it my own thing, the hosting it, but I almost enjoy being a guest even more because it's a lot less stressful. You just get to talk. You don't have to worry about making sure the flow is going and all that. So I enjoy the discussion. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that was it. And then what I'll do is I'll edit everything else at the end of this.
Perfect.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, how'd you think it went?
Well, good. I enjoyed the discussion, at least. What about you?
Pretty good. I don't know. I was nervous, to be honest, man. I was nervous.
Oh,
You're the
you do well. I can't. I wouldn't say that I can really notice it. So you do well hiding it, I guess.
I appreciate that. It's just you're the it's Zoom calls are tough
Yeah.
for me. I don't know. We've been going for almost 2 hours, I think. But Zoom calls are pretty tough for me to do just because of the person's not really here. So then
Yeah.
you can't really kind of get into that motion of what they're talking about and how they're feeling at the time. It makes it more
Well,
difficult.
I've done a few that some people they don't want to have the video on. They feel that it makes for better audio if the video is turned off. And so that kind of sucks to me because I can't even at least look at you to get, some reaction and feedback and all that. So yeah, that's one thing that's even another level above being a Zoom meeting.
That would be miserable. I
Yeah.
move around a ton. I move around a lot. So like I do this, I move back and forth, I twiddle my fingers, and I'm paying attention, but I have to do something. And so what the nice thing is when you have somebody in person, I can switch the cameras over back and forth. And I switch it to that person, and then I'm over in the back. Literally, I'll be in the back doing this, like leaning back, sitting up, tossing my legs up on the table for a second, putting my legs behind, like sitting there, and then me having to be recorded the whole time. Completely different.
Yeah.
Completely insane. But dude, I don't want to keep you for your entire day. I'm sure you got a lot of stuff going on.
No problem, man.
Man, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
If you could send me like a professional photo of you or something that's pretty clear that I can use as a thumbnail. And then I'll probably ask for some basic stuff about you. That way, when I put it up in the intro.
Yeah.
And then I'll send it to you.
Man, you got my number. So that this isn't the end of the conversation. I mean, we definitely look forward to getting to know each other better, and you got some questions to ask, and I'm here for it. So
thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Hey, you made it to the very end of the video. I really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot to me that you spent the time to listen to it. Please let me know what you think down at the bottom in the comment section. Or if you want to contact either Jeremy or myself just to talk to, or if you have questions for him or just ask questions for me, more than happy to. I'll put that down in the description. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.